Okay, for today's lab, we're going to be doing a work and energy experiment. And to get at the energy part, remember, which is the kinetic energy, we need to get to the speed. And to do that, we are going to use a few simple instruments plus your little recording Pocket Lab device. So for the lab, from the kit, you're going to need to grab your car, and we have a variety of different types of cars. I'm just going to use this black car here. You're going to want some kind of reflective surface. You have to provide this. It could be a book, it could be a tablet, it could be your wall too. You just want to make sure that everything is set up so that you can see everything clearly. You're going to need the ruler. You're going to need your Pocket Lab. That's in your kit. The ruler's in your kit. And you'll need some tape. There is some tape in the kit, or you can provide your own tape. It doesn't matter what you have, whether it's duct tape, scotch tape, or masking tape. You just need to be able to stick a couple of things together. So to set this up, the first thing I'm going to do is set up my surface that the signal is going to bounce off from my Mevo. And so I'm just going to be setting this up against this little block and have my little tablet there. I'm going to want to be able to attach my Pocket Lab sensor, and we're going to be using the rangefinder in this. And remember, this little oval is the rangefinder signal. So I'm going to want to just attach this to the car. To do that, I'm just going to use some tape. And again, there's many ways you can tape it, but I'm just going to tape it here. And you're going to want it to be roughly perpendicular. If it's a little bit off, it's not the end of the world, but you're going to want it to be roughly perpendicular. And then I'm going to take my car, and I'm going to want to put in the ruler, because what we're going to do is we're going to pull this back a certain known distance, and then we're going to let it go, and we're going to record the speed of this, or we're going to record the position, and from that we're going to get the speed of the car. So one thing about the car is, of course, when you pull it back, you'll feel it wind up a little bit, and when you let it go, it goes. You have to be very careful when you're doing this that the wheels don't have any residual wind in them. So it's always good to lift it off the surface before you start this experiment. All right, before I get started, I need to connect my Pocket Lab. And so when you do that, you're going to go to the software. Now this is in your lab card. I'm in a different area, but don't worry about it. It looks the same. So I'm going to click on Connect to Pocket Lab. If your Pocket Lab is off, you'll have to turn it back on and it will sense it. And again, you could be using your phone for this. I'm using a PC in this case. And as I said before, it's going to default to acceleration, which is not the experiment we want. So I go to Graph, I turn off the acceleration, and I look for the rangefinder. Okay. And so now I can see that I'm recording the location of the car. I can test that. I can move it a little bit closer to and I see it gets smaller. I move it far away, it gets bigger. So I'm recording the position of my car. So to do the experiment, you're going to want to be able to measure. So my case, I'm going to use the front of the car, and I'm going to set it at 0 centimeters. You can choose whatever point of the car you want, but for me, it's easy to see the front of the car. Okay. I'm going to now go in, and I'm going to record my data. So I hit record, and again, it turns into these dots, which means I'm recording data. I'm going to take my car, and I'm going to pull it back, in this case, 4 centimeters. And I want to make sure I'm not going to hit the ruler or I'm rubbing up against anything. And then I'm going to let it go and get some distance. And then I'm going to stop. Now you want to make sure that whatever your sensor is far enough away that you can get several data points to do this. And so if we look here, right in this region, this is the region after I pulled it back and let it go, where I'm getting the data of interest. And again, review the little video that connects this position to velocity to understand how this is working. So this is the point region of interest. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select it. Now notice I misselected it. And so far, the only way I know how to do this is if you hit play, that'll re-show your data. It takes a second to do, but it allows me to come back and expand on my data. So give it a second here. Back. And okay, so I'm good to go. So I'm going to try and grab this data point, and I'm going to try and grab that last data point where everything looks nice and like it's in roughly a straight line. Okay, and as we learned in the last lab, to do the data analysis, I go to a linear fit and I fit the data. Now I can see here that I have kind of a rough data. Remember, this is our answer, that this is the slope of the line, this number that multiplies x, and this is the intercept. In our case, the intercept isn't interesting. It's the slope of the line. Now, I will say it's negative, but we're only worried about the speed here. And since we're only worried about the speed, it doesn't have a sign associated with it. And so really what we're interested in is just simply the number that multiplies the x, which in this case is 0.27. There's some technical reasons why it's negative in this case. It has to do with how the sensor is working to make this measurement. You can talk to your instructor and they can explain to you why we're not really worried about the minus sign in this case. There will be times where we're worried about that minus sign, and we'll try to be very clear. In this case, the way the experiment is set up is giving us a negative sign, and that's okay. So I'm going to record and write down this value of 0.27. You're going to do 3 trials for each of this, which means I'm going to repeat this experiment. I'm going to reset it up. I'm going to pull it back 4 centimeters. I'm going to hit clear to reset my data here. I'm going to hit record, and I'm going to repeat this again for 4 centimeters, and you're going to do that 3 times, and you're going to average those 3 things together. And the reason we do that is to try and minimize any error in the experiment. Maybe I was not quite 4 centimeters. I was a little bit plus or minus off of 4 centimeters. You're going to take those 3 values you record for 4 centimeters, average them together, and that will be the value you're going to record in the table in the pocket in the software. And then you're going to repeat this measurement for 6, 8, 10, and 12 centimeters. And we will then instruct you what to do with that next. You're going to plot those values, and from that you're going to get the force. So hopefully this is clear. If you need to go back and rewatch it, please do. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to your instructor and ask them.